I'm Hal Cranmer. I own 4 assisted living homes around Phoenix, Arizona. I've been in this business over 9 years, and I used to have 5 homes. I sold one of them. I'm getting a little older and looking more towards retiring, but I love it. I have a very big passion for it. I started out with the Residential Assisted Living Academy 10 years ago and put all their lessons to good use.
Hi, I'm Cari Kamp. I'm a certified health and wellness coach. I specifically work with Hal's Homes, looking at how can we make the residents feel better, that their brains work better, that they're able to reduce their medications, all by changing what they eat. So Hal and I work together specifically for nutrient-dense foods, great tasting meals, so everybody can actually enjoy each day here. And it's almost like a rehab. We want them to go home. So I'm certified through Maria and Craig Emmerich. They've written 25 different books. They've been doing healthy, nutrient-dense living for their clients for about 25 years. And so they actually interviewed Hal on a podcast that I saw, and I said, oh my gosh, he's here in Phoenix. I want to meet him. So Maria flew to my house in Phoenix in April, and we did a 2-day cooking event, and Hal came with one of his caregivers, but also one of his residents who was able to go home after changing her food and being at Hal's Homes, and she was able to go home to Seattle to be able to live by herself, dementia-free. So I just said to Hal, I want to work with you. I want to help all of your residents get better if they want to.
And I'd just like to say, I love to hire people with a lot of passion, and I could tell right away that Cari has a lot of passion for this, and that's what really makes my home special, in my opinion. Okay, so people come to our homes with various different health issues. They're obviously not in good shape when they come to us. So what we want to do when we first have them arrive at the home is get a whole bunch of labs with them. I have an outside consulting company that specializes in dementia protocols. They make requisitions to a local lab to pull a lot of blood, and we do a lot of testing on markers of what we can do. And then we customize some kind of, I don't want to say treatment, but schedule of therapies that we can do for them to help them improve. I would say regardless of what problem they have, we put them on a low-carb, either ketogenic or carnivore diet. We found that to be the healthiest, and I'll let Cari make a few comments on that after I'm done. But everyone pretty much gets that wants that. If a family really doesn't want that for their loved one, we'll have that as a basic and then add something that the family wants. We do other therapies too. You see behind us, we have a sauna. We do red light therapy. We do hyperbaric oxygen, depending on what kind of issues they have. And then obviously we have house doctors, nurses, things like that administer regular prescriptions and do more conventional medicine, but with the flexibility given to us by the Department of Health, we'll incorporate all those activities in a schedule a day. We have a personal trainer that exercises them. We have them go outside and get some vitamin D as much as they can when it's not 115 here in Arizona. And then we monitor their progress to see if we can get them home. And we've sent 7 or 8 people home over the years where they actually got well enough that they no longer needed assisted living. So we have big going away parties for those families. We had one guy who stood up and started singing before he left because he was so excited to go home. Not that he didn't like this place, but everyone wants to live at home. I know that, and that's why we work hard to do that. The first one I did this for, and the guy who kind of inspired me to do this, he was an old World War II pilot, and he said, I made a deal with him that if he could get out of his wheelchair and he could walk to his wife's car and get in the car, he could go home. And so he worked with us for really hard, 7 or 8 months. I didn't know much about diet back then, but I knew sugar's probably bad. Let's cut out the ice cream. Let's give him salads, some lean meat, things like that. And he got better and walked to his car, and we did a video testimonial with him back at his house. He just finished walking his dog when we got over there, and that kind of inspired me to do more and more. But we try to have a big celebration when that happens. Even if they can't go home, they can get to a point where they can go out to a restaurant with their family. They can go home for the weekend. They can spend holidays with their family. We even had a guy go on a cruise for a week with his family. We lent them a caregiver. They paid for her cruise, and she took care of him on the cruise. He was 98 years old, came back here, spent 6 more months with us, died suddenly one afternoon in his chair, but the day before he was doing great. I mean, that's the way we want everyone to go out.
When you walk in here, it is different. It is a family, and Hal wants it to be a family. And I think there's many things that differentiate Hal's homes from all the other homes, thousands of homes in the Maricopa County. But he truly cares. He knows the families, he knows the children. He is part of the family, and they are part of this family. So I think the difference is that, people want their families here because they know they're going to be well taken care of. And I think the biggest thing is when Hal talked about how he feeds everyone different. Let's just touch on that for a bit, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about what keto is. Keto is actually ketosis, which is a state of the body. It's not a certain food. It's not, doing, these crazy things like a stick of butter and coffee and all that. What it is, it's nutrient dense food. So I say to people, is it okay if your family members eat, healthy meats that aren't processed and really great vegetables that aren't going to make their insulin go up and make their diabetes medications increase? Would you like them to be able to decrease their medications naturally, and their doctors are going to be able to support that? Or would you rather just have them eat unhealthy food that makes them not feel good, that doesn't allow them to really interact with everybody here because their memory isn't as good, their joints hurt, they can't get around? So all of a sudden when they're feeling better, it's quality of life. And that's what I love about what Hal's doing. We don't know how long we're here, but let's make the best of it. I mean, he makes it fun. He has people coming in doing bingo and different activities. So this isn't about put somebody in a chair. This is about how can we make every single day the best it can be for these people. And that's why so many families are saying, Hal, do you have a spot for my mom? I'm going to bring her from Florida or Seattle or Iowa or South Dakota. I mean, this is where you can really differentiate your home based on what he's doing, because he truly cares and he wants to make a difference.
Can I just add something for the caregivers too? They've really embraced Cari. Not so much. I've hired some cooks because I'd rather have the caregivers focus on the care and get some cooks who really understand this. And the cooks they call Cari, email her questions. I don't know if you want to talk about what they've done, but they love what she's doing. We have one cook who's lost 38 pounds because she's like, maybe I should eat like this instead of just serving it to other people. So. And
that's so true. I have another cook, I haven't even talked to you about this, that reached out to me last week, and it was her husband's birthday, and she made some great cakes, because you can still have desserts and crema rolls and all these things. We're just making them different. It's not about depriving yourself. And she's like, we've decided as a family we're going to move forward based on all the results that we've seen in Hal's home, and we love it and we want to be part of it, and we know that that's best for our family too, my children as well as my husband. So we want to touch many people, and I think the families see that because Hal really cares, but we really care. We want to make a difference, and I think it's so rewarding, it's hard to even put into words. So Maria Emmerich, who is my mentor and coach, has written over 20 cookbooks, and they're all delicious and healthy, whether it's dairy-free, they're all gluten-free. So she sent all of her cookbooks to Hal once she saw what Hal was doing. So we utilize all those cookbooks. So it's more or less, they have a variety. It can be Italian, it can be Mexican, it can be Thai food. They can, still do bread, but we're making it with egg whites, and they're fluffy, almost like a Wonder Bread. So this is where the cooks, I really appreciate them, because they are stepping out of their comfort zone and they're embracing it and they're having fun. And they're like, well, gosh, I never really thought of making this like this, but it's making it easier for them. Slow cooker recipes, air fryer recipes. We can do, grilling, and Maria has 25 different sauces that they can make. So it's looking at what are allergies that may be possibly an issue within each home, but also what do people like? Do we make individual meals for every single person? No, we make a large amount. And then the nice thing is they can, kind of be mixed up a little bit with a different sauce or different vegetables and things like that based on what specifics the family wants, but also where we're trying to get them, right? But we also want them to enjoy. Hal is very big on celebrations. If it's a 3 or 4 people have birthdays that month, he comes over, there's a cake, not from the grocery store, but they make it. Cupcakes, we can make healthy ice cream without the sugar. So all those things they still have, so they are not deprived in any way, and they are not hungry because it's all nutrient dense food that doesn't make them hungry an hour later because their insulin has gone high and now it's gone really low. So that's what we want, is consistency in their behavior and their health, and make them feel better. They're going to sleep better. Their moods are going to be better. They're just going to handle life better, and it's going to be easier for the caregivers as well.
And I'd like to add on top of that, a lot of people get worried, wow, all those fancy foods, it's going to blow my food budget out of the water. And a lot of assisted living homes think, I don't want to eat into my profits like that. So they serve them very processed, very cheap food, because it's just whatever the budget allows, and grandma doesn't really care. Well, I hardly have a vacancy. When I do have a vacancy, it fills very quickly. I used to have to fill them with referral agents, like a Place for Mom, local social workers and stuff, and they charge me a month's rent to put someone in here. Now I get phone calls. I got 3 calls this morning for my homes to move in. Eliminated those referral fees. I mean, a month's rent, when you're talking several $1,000s, that's a lot of food to make the difference. Mm-hmm. If you have a bed empty for a month, that's several $1,000s of revenue lost. Okay, I'm turning them over. People worry about, well, if you make them all healthy, they all go home, you're not going to have any customers. The bed fills right away when someone leaves. So it's not like you're going to be. I've gone several years. During COVID, I went 2 years without losing anyone for any reason. Okay, we definitely didn't lose anyone for COVID, and so everyone concentrates on the food and says, oh, it's so expensive. Well, the extra couple $100s a month pales in comparison. You got to think ROI, not just plain cost.
That's well said, and it's so true. And people don't think about that. They're always just looking at the cost, but really when you look at it, and when you're eating healthier foods, they're more satiated, they aren't going to eat as much, they're not doing all the snacking, and all those things add up.
Sometimes people need pureed. We actually puree hamburger, a ground beef or steak, and they're able to eat that. We'll find specific food preferences and things like that. Maria Emmerich and Cari have such a huge variety. Like she said, she wrote 25 cookbooks, that if one thing doesn't work, we just adjust and do something else. And most of my cooks, when they come here, they don't just cook and leave. They spend time with the residents. They get to know them too. Like we said, we're one big family. It's like mom cooking in the kitchen. It's not, a professional chef. And so they'll hug the residents. They'll talk to them. The families will be over. We encourage the families to reach out to the cooks if they're not happy. So it's a big coordination effort. We want the families to be involved. No offense to Cari, but I think the best thing we can do medicine-wise for people is let them spend time with their family. That, isolation is one of the worst things you can do, especially to an elderly person who the family's all they've got. So, we want to encourage them to let us know their preferences, and we can adjust the meals to those preferences.
Well, and some of the families reach out. Hal gives them my information if they have any questions. So it's not like I'm just telling from afar of what they should be doing. I want to make sure that the families feel comfortable, that they understand it, that they don't have any misinformation, because a lot of times you get on social media or you read this crazy stuff, which is so not true. And so
I've called you a couple times with crazy stuff.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. That's the point, is that people don't know. So we give them science-based education, peer-reviewed studies, things where, hey, this is the other side of the coin, to be able to understand, okay, I didn't know that. Why didn't I know that? And I think that's the thing, is if they feel like they can reach out to me and I'm very approachable, I want to be approachable, I think that's the key, is that, oh, you're just not doing this to my family members, that somebody really cares. They know Hal cares, but they don't know who I am. And that's where it's the synergy of really getting to know everybody.
Transparency is a huge thing in this industry. this industry has a very bad reputation that, sexual abuse, elderly abuse, people stealing from the elderly, they have dementia, they don't know what's going on. So you've really got to let people know, I'm not hiding anything from you. Whatever we're doing, you're free to come in and see it at any time. And that doesn't mean, Soviet-style monitoring where there are cameras everywhere. It just means if you have questions, we need to answer them. And we need to prove to you that we've got the best interest of your mom or dad at heart. That's why, for instance, I don't have visiting hours. You can come over anytime you want to see your mom and dad. This is their home as much as it is my home. And so they can have people over whenever they want, unless some homeowners association gives a hard time. But so I tell them you can knock on the door and come in anytime. We recommend you call. They might be asleep, they might be in the shower or something like that. But if you want to come over anytime, we have no problem with it. We just ask you not to be a nuisance to any other residents.
Really, the biggest question is it healthy for my family member, and why is it healthy? And that's where you get down just to the basics of, what do you think about eating healthy meats? Chicken, ground beef, some steaks. We're going to do, shrimp on the grill or whatever it may be. What do you think about those meats? And they're like, well, that's what I eat. Okay, well, great. And so how about, we're doing vegetables that don't have a lot of sugar in them, right? So we're doing more like cauliflower and broccoli and asparagus and zucchini and tomatoes, cucumbers, salads, things like that. That isn't going to raise your mom's blood sugar level, so she has to go on more medication. So what do you think about that? Well, that sounds great. So truly it's about simplifying it and not putting everything in the same category, because it's not. And when it comes to snacks, they can still have snacks, but they're not hungry, right? So what are those snacks? So, I taught the caregivers to look at all the ingredients on what they purchase. Is there added sugar? Is there tons of, high fructose, which is not going to help their liver? What are they eating that is not causing them to be the best that they can be and to be able to function the best? And so if they really want their family members to get better and to go home, it's fuel, right? There's multiple types of fuel, but you don't put, diesel gas in a jet. You just don't. So it's about how are you fueling the body? And a lot of times people don't think about that, but they think about, well, can't they just have cereal? Well, they can, but are they going to feel the best? And so giving them an option, but being able to educate them on that side, because a lot of times it's just easy to give them a bowl of cereal with skim milk, which it's probably more sugar than, it's probably a cup and a half of sugar just in that small meal, and they think they're doing good. So being able to help them understand it, they still have a choice, but when they see the improvement of their family members, they're like, it helps them to recognize that we're doing it for the good, and it's not like we're taking away any flavors. And pancakes, they can have protein pancakes and different things, waffles and pretzels and all these things. We're just making them different. And so that's why I like to ask, what do you like to eat? And then we find a substitute where, my coach says it often, we just make it a little bit different. And that's it. We're still making those things, whether it's pasta, meatballs, pork chops, whatever it may be, but we're just making it different. So is it still delicious? Absolutely. We do lots of soups, stews, instant pots, for all different types of flavors. And I think that's the fun of it, is they are surprised on how good it is. And I know that your caregivers and the cooks have reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, everyone loves the food. So we just strive for that.
When I first hired Cari, the first thing we did was brought her to the house, meet the caregivers. And I thought I was doing pretty well, just on my own, researching on Google. She went through our pantries, get rid of that. You got to get rid of, oh, I can't believe you have that. This is ridiculous. And she'd take it out and explain to the caregivers, look at the label, look at these chemical compounds. This thing's much higher glycemic index than sugar. And it would say sugar-free on it because it wasn't sugar. So, you really need to get down to the labels. I've received a tremendous education. My caregivers have received a tremendous education. They all thought, we're doing pretty well. There's a constant process in learning and improving on this. Well, I'd start with, initially was the seed oils, were the big ones, okay? They thought, well, we're cooking in oil, it's vegetable oil, or it's, sunflower oil, it's probably fine. Well, there's a whole body of evidence that that's absolutely not fine. And I was concentrating on, okay, what's the carb content? I wasn't really looking at the sugars. What were some of the other stuff? A lot of stuff is labeled keto, like keto bread, keto cereal, keto chocolate chip cookies. And so my caregivers, well, it says keto, so I guess it's okay. It's not okay. And you really can't, there's no FDA regulation that says what's keto and what's not. So what you have to do is look at the small little ingredients on the back. In addition, you look at a thing of cereal, say Raisin Bran, and it'll say, it's only 20 grams of carbohydrate, but it says serving size is a cup. No one eats a cup of cereal. A bowl of cereal is like 3 or 4 cups. And so, that's how they get away with it, making you think it's very nutritious, is because the serving sizes are so small, even for elderly people. So you really have to get it down, and what helps is with their cookbooks and with their recipes, you know specifically what to go to the grocery store and get, and you know what to make sure you're using and eliminate the rest. And in an assisted living environments, we really control their food. So they can't get the little temptation, they can't order DoorDash, they can't nip out to the ice cream store because they're getting a little craving. They're stuck here. And so I don't want to make it sound like it's a prison, but it helps to, out of sight, out of mind, it helps reduce those cravings, it helps reduce the snacking and the cheating. Well, we put at least a weekly schedule on the board. The Department of Health requires us to do that. Actually, I think they have a monthly schedule, but we sort of plan them out weekly. We'll get some input from the residents. Some residents will like, a certain type of food. So we can't be a restaurant where we serve a different meal to each resident. We'll have a base meal, and then if some of the families want them to have specific parts, we'll add that to it or take it away. But really, it's up to our cooks. I don't have a ton of input. They can do it as they want if they want to substitute. And then on groceries, we ask groceries. On birthdays, we ask the resident, it's your birthday, what do you want to eat? And occasionally we'll splurge on that because, I really want a pizza, but we'll try to make a keto pizza and get away with it. I've had residents say, I want a plate full of donuts. So there are keto donuts, right? Yeah. So we sometimes can get away with it. So, we try to accommodate them as much as we can, but we want to keep it as healthy as we can and make one meal for everyone with maybe some additions and subtractions to each one.
So there's a couple brands that are out there. That one is called Miracle Noodle, and one is made with a root, where it's very low carb. The other one, they're now making egg white noodles, so you don't have to make them yourself. So it's all protein. It's almost like a soft vermicelli. And so you can put it in soups, you can use it for, I like to post those pictures just because I want people to be able to see, hey, here's a hearty meat sauce and meatballs, and here's the pasta in it. And they're like, how can you eat pasta? Well, it's egg whites. So you're still getting the textures and the flavors. And as we know, when we're looking at things, whether it's a caramel roll or a donut and it's made with egg whites or something, almond flour, it still tastes like, a caramel roll or a donut. Same thing with pasta. And after a while, you don't even miss the pasta because you're just focused on, oh my gosh, the meat sauce tastes so good. And I've added some maybe, spiralized zucchini or whatever it may be. But there are lots of different options that you don't even have to make if you don't want to. So I like to tell people you can still have pasta. We're gonna switch it out. We're not gonna do the wheat, which is, can cause a lot of GI issues and leaky gut and things like that. We want to make sure we stay gluten-free because that's really inflammatory. And I think people think that gluten is kind of like a fad that, hey, don't eat gluten. Well, gluten, if somebody actually does have a sensitivity, you have gluten, it can actually last up to 6 weeks. So it's not something like the next day you're better, depending on the person. So it's really important that we really know what our residents need and make sure they're not getting things that they should not have at all. And gluten is just an easy thing to skip.
Her ketogenic lasagna is a huge hit at this home.
Sure. So the chefs are great because they are so invested in the residents. So what I do is we had a Zoom call originally and talked to all of them at once. And then they would reach out to me for specific questions. I have one lady in particular that reaches out to me probably once a week.
Lori.
And yes, and she's amazing. And she is so fun and so positive and so grateful. But what I did is, Maria has all these recipes, so I'm able to help them hand pick those specifically for what the residents like. If they don't like soups, we're not going to do soups, right? If they want something that's more of a hearty. So it's really individualized because they know the residents that are here. And because they know the residents, they can say, hey, Cari, this is what I'm looking for. And they'll just give me a list of what they're looking for, and I'll send them the recipes. Because I am a coach with Maria, I can help them, and obviously they have all the cookbooks. It's hard for them to look through 25 cookbooks. So I'm here to really help them get to a place where they don't have to put a lot of effort into finding the recipe. I will help them. They just need to let me know what they're looking for. The great thing about Hal is he makes sure that there's lots of activities for everybody. He'll come over and take, residents for walks in the mornings or in the evenings and things like that. And that's really, to me, really special and shows his heart. But he is always willing to try something if he feels it will help his residents. And he'll reach out to the families. Are you up for this? Is this okay? And this is the benefits, even if there's an additional cost. And that's where he is looking for long-term. He is looking for people to get better in all areas. And I'm just one facet of that. But, exercise, therapy, the saunas, all these different things, the oxygen therapies, he researches this in, hours and hours and hours, and he reaches out to people, and he really wants the best. He doesn't want just some, something that's just the fad. He wants something that's really going to work, and he's going to look at the science of it to make sure it's the best for his residents. And he can educate then the families and say, hey, this is an option for your family member. It doesn't mean that everyone has to do it, but they will improve based on that. And that's where I love that, because you can do the food, but you'll also need to have other things when it comes to strengthening, flexibility, and he posts a lot of things where they're doing their exercises, and it's awesome. I mean, most people on their own do not do this. So he's giving everyone an opportunity to be able to do this.
So my goal is to try to get rid of the assisted living industry. If we can, that's what every business should try to do, is work their way out of business. Businesses exist to solve problems, okay? And I think that we spend too much time in the whole medical infrastructure of treating people but not curing people or fixing them. I shouldn't use cure. But what we need to do is not just focus on our assisted living people, but it should spread to the families of the assisted living people. Dementia has a very big genetic component. So I have a lot of people in my assisted living home that have family members going, that's my future. Well, it doesn't have to be your future. You can easily avoid dementia by doing the right things with your body and your health and your lifestyle choices. And so it's not just helping people in my assisted living home, it's spreading the word, creating a community, and educating people so that they will never need assisted living, that they can live at home for the rest of their lives. Everyone that comes into our assisted living homes, the first thing they say is, I don't want to be here, I want to live at home. My parents tell me, don't ever put me in your assisted living home. I get it. That's what the customer wants. We should deliver that to the customer.